Imagine building a life. For years, you've woven your dreams into the very fabric of a new country. You've worked, paid taxes, raised a family, called a community your home. You've followed every rule, filled out every form, always with one goal in sight: permanence. Stability. Belonging. That goal, for tens of thousands of people in the UK, has just been moved. The finish line hasn't just been pushed back, the entire race has been rerouted, with higher hurdles and steeper climbs. This isn't just a policy update, it's a fundamental reshaping of the promise of Britain. The UK's immigration system is undergoing its most significant transformation in decades, and the journey to settlement and citizenship is about to become longer, harder, and for many, utterly out of reach. This is the story of that change. Welcome. We are at a pivotal crossroads in the history of British immigration. The year 2025 marks not merely a calendar change but the implementation of a sweeping and profound policy revolution that will redefine what it means to become a British citizen. The government's stated aim is clear and unequivocal: to drastically reduce net migration, which reached record levels in recent years, and to assert greater control over who can claim the right to live in the UK permanently. The mechanisms to achieve this are encapsulated in a series of policies that target the very apex of the immigrant journey: indefinite leave to remain, known as ILR, and the subsequent acquisition of British citizenship. For decades, the foundational principle for most legal migrants has been a 5-year pathway. After 5 years of lawful residence under categories like the skilled worker visa, family visas, or other established routes, an individual could apply for ILR, a status that removes immigration time restrictions and the need for further visa extensions. It is the holy grail of the immigration process, offering security and the freedom to build a life without the looming shadow of potential expulsion. Following ILR, after a further 12 months, one could typically apply for British citizenship, the final step in full societal and political integration. This 5-year framework has been a predictable, albeit challenging, roadmap for millions. It has allowed businesses to recruit international talent with the promise of long-term stability, enabled families to reunite and plan their futures with confidence, and provided a clear incentive for highly skilled individuals to choose the UK over other competing nations. It was a system built on a principle of earned integration: contribute to society and the economy for a substantial period, and you will be rewarded with the right to stay. The new policies, coming into force in 2025, shatter this established paradigm. The core change is both simple and monumental: the residency requirement for ILR is being doubled. From 5 years, it is being extended to 10 years for nearly all main immigration routes. This is not a minor adjustment, it is a radical recalibration of the social contract between the migrant and the state. The message is that a decade of contribution is now the minimum threshold for being considered for permanent residence. But the changes extend far beyond just the timeline. The eligibility criteria for ILR and citizenship at this 10-year mark are being significantly tightened. The government is raising the bar across multiple dimensions: financial, linguistic, and civic. Salary thresholds for skilled workers are being increased substantially, making it harder to qualify for the visa in the first place and to sustain it through to the decade-long journey. The English language requirement, once a hurdle at the FLR, further leave to remain, and naturalization stages, is being made more stringent and will be applied at more frequent intervals. The Life in the UK test, the exam designed to assess knowledge of British traditions, history, and governance, is also under review, with expectations of a more difficult curriculum and a higher pass mark. Perhaps the most stark and controversial element is the explicit disqualification of individuals who arrive in the UK via what the government terms irregular routes. This primarily targets those who cross the English Channel in small boats and claim asylum. The policy legislates that such individuals, even if they are ultimately granted refugee status or humanitarian protection, will never be eligible to apply for citizenship. They are to be permanently relegated to a temporary status, with no path to full integration, a move that critics argue creates a permanent underclass and challenges international human rights norms. The implications of this policy overhaul are vast and multidimensional. They ripple outwards, affecting not just the individual migrant but their families, their employers, the British economy, and the very social fabric of the nation. For the skilled tech worker from India, the policy means a decade of uncertainty and higher costs. For the British citizen hoping to bring their American spouse to the UK, it means their partner faces 10 years of restricted rights and financial hurdles before they can work and live freely. For a refugee fleeing persecution, it means the door to full belonging is permanently locked. This script will serve as your comprehensive guide through this new and complex landscape. We will dissect each policy change in meticulous detail, providing clarity on the new rules, the timelines for implementation, and the specific groups affected. We will move beyond the headlines to explore the real-world human impact, hearing the concerns of families, the anxieties of employers, and the analyses of legal experts. We will examine the government's rationale, the desire to control borders, reduce strain on public services, and assert a new vision of British identity, while also engaging with the robust criticism from business leaders, academics, and human rights advocates who warn of unintended economic and social consequences. We will explore the legal challenges that are almost certain to arise, particularly regarding the treatment of refugees and the compatibility of these policies with the UK's international obligations. We will provide practical advice for those already on the path to settlement and those considering beginning their journey post-2025. This is more than a policy briefing, it is an exploration of a nation redefining its boundaries, both geographical and philosophical. It is a story about who gets to belong, and on what terms. So, let us begin this deep dive into the UK's new immigration era, starting with the central pillar of the entire reform, the dramatic extension of the residency requirement from 5 to 10 years and what that truly means for the dream of calling Britain home. This concludes Part 1. The subsequent parts would delve into each specific area in extreme detail, as outlined below. Part 2, the decade-long path, deep dive into the 10-year ILR rule, exhaustive analysis of the shift from 5 to 10 years. Breakdown of which specific visas are affected, skilled worker, family visas, ancestry, etc., and any potential exemptions. The psychological and financial impact of doubling the period of temporary status. The mechanics of the 10-year continuous residence rule, allowed absences, how it's calculated. The increased financial cost over a decade, application fees, immigration health surcharge, IHS, legal fees. Part 3. The Financial Fortress, higher salary thresholds and economic hurdles, detailed examination of the new general skilled worker salary threshold, e.g., from £26,200 to £38,700 or higher, and the specific, higher, going rates, for individual occupations. Impact on different sectors, NHS and care workers, though possibly with different rules, tech, finance, academia, hospitality. The transition problem. What happens to people already in the UK on a path to ILR when the rules change? Will they be grandfathered or forced to meet new standards? Analysis of the minimum income requirement for family visas, its increase and the devastating effect on British citizens and their foreign partners and children. The concept of the migrant premium, the significantly higher income a migrant must now earn compared to the average British worker. Part 4, the language and integration gauntlet, stricter English and life in the UK tests. 500 words. In-depth look at the proposed changes to the English language requirement, moving from B1, intermediate, to B2, upper intermediate, on the CEFR scale. What does B2 proficiency entail? Real-world examples of the language skills gap. The financial and preparatory burden of achieving a higher language level. Revisions to the Life in the UK test, a content analysis of the new, proposed curriculum. Is it more focused on history or on contemporary values? The philosophy behind integration, is testing knowledge an effective measure of belonging? Access to resources and classes, especially for vulnerable groups. Part 5, the irregular route bar, a permanent denial of citizenship. Detailed explanation of the policy denying citizenship to those arriving via irregular means, small boats. Legal status of these individuals, temporary protection, not refugee status with a path to citizenship. International law implications. Does this violate the Refugee Convention's spirit of integration? Ethical and human rights critiques, creating a perpetual second-class status. The Rwanda Plan and other deterrents linked to this policy. The potential for legal challenges and appeals on human rights grounds. Part 6, impact on skilled workers, the brain drain Oregon brain gain debate. 500 words, sector-by-sector impact analysis, tech, healthcare, science, engineering, arts. Voices from industry, will the UK still be able to attract top global talent? The competitive disadvantage compared to countries like Canada, Australia, and Germany who offer clearer, faster paths to permanence. Case studies of companies reliant on international talent and their contingency plans. The potential for increased job mobility and churn as workers on visas seek higher salaries to meet thresholds. Part 7, impact on families, the heartbreak of separation and prolonged uncertainty. Human stories, British citizens and their families facing 10 years of separation or financial hardship. The impact on children, growing up with a parent who has precarious immigration status. The strain on relationships and mental health over a decade-long process. The unfairness perceived by families who played by the old rules only to have them changed mid-process. Analysis of the minimum income requirement in depth, its effect on younger couples, people living outside London and the Southeast, and women. Part 8, Impact on Refugees and Asylum Seekers, A Life in Limbo. 3, 500 words, focusing on those excluded by the irregular route rule. What does a permanent temporary status mean for integration, mental health, and community cohesion? Differentiating this group from those who come through official resettlement schemes, e.g., Hong Kong BNO, Ukraine schemes. The moral argument: should the mode of arrival dictate the entirety of one's future in a country where one has found safety? The practical realities of living long-term without citizenship rights, e.g., voting, passport, absolute security. Part 9, The Legal and Administrative Maze, Navigating the New System. 3, 500 words. A practical guide for migrants, steps to take now, how to prepare for the changes. The crucial role of immigration lawyers and advisors, expected surge in demand. Potential for administrative backlog and delays with a more complex system. Understanding the points-based system in the context of the new rules. The importance of meticulous record-keeping over a 10-year period. Part 10, The National Debate, Rationale, Critiques, and the Future of Britain. 3, 500 words, thoroughly presenting the government's case, controlling numbers, protecting public services, encouraging integration, and having a fair system. Presenting the counterarguments: economic harm, social fragmentation, human cost, damage to UK's global reputation. Expert opinions from economists, sociologists, and political scientists. What other countries have done similar things? Comparative analysis. The potential for future political reversal and the permanence of these changes. Concluding thoughts on what these policies say about the UK's vision of itself in the 21st century and the evolving meaning of citizenship.